Here they come.
Hello, everybody. We're going to give just a minute for give everyone time to jump on. I see some familiar faces. Pam, Rainey, it's good to see you. Okay, I think we've got a good start at all the participants who were joining us, and we're so excited to have you here today for the Wi-Fi Power Hour in January of 2025. I think we can still say Happy New Year to everyone at this point in the month. So we are here today, and we're going to have a session from really focused on AI, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute and introduce the real experts in that area. But first, we thought we'd just take just a second and talk about Wi-Fi. And we're just so happy that you've joined us all today. So Wi-Fi is women in the floor covering industry, and it actually launched in 2021 on International Women's Day. It's a 501(c), so it's an educational nonprofit. Our mission is, you can see there, is to attract, educate, and empower women in the flooring industry. So that's just an overview of who we are and what our vision and purpose is. You can see here, and I'm not going to go through every name, but we have the board of directors and all of the members pictured here, and you can see the wide range of organizations represented by the board of directors. So we really do have representation from across the industry and across channels and different organizations in the industry. Here you can see those on the Professional Development Committee who are really focused on bringing all of the educational content to you, and the experts that we have in subject matter experts across different topics. And we're so grateful to them for all of their time and making the educational part of this just very, very rich for all of us. And always want to make note to give a big thank you to all of our corporate donors, and you see them here. Without these donors, we really wouldn't be able to bring all of this great content and all of the benefits of Wi-Fi to you. So a big, big thank you to these donors and to all of those on the call representing these corporate donors. So thanks so much. Just a couple of things about some other programs that we have outside of the Power Hour, which you're a part of today. We do have a mentoring program, which again is a match designed for professional and personal growth. It includes a 6-month commitment. We've had over 120 participants in this mentoring program over the past 18 months. Our third cohort is currently in session, and it started in fall of 2024. We have a fourth cohort starting in the spring of this year, and applications are now open. So if you would like to be a part of the mentoring program as a mentor or a mentee, then please take a look at that. One thing that we are just all so very proud of, and what it just really fulfills so much of our purpose and our mission, is our Wi-Fi scholarship program. And the scholarship program is available for post-secondary education scholarships. So anyone attending college, trade school, technical school, a degree, certificate, different types of certifications. I've seen them for applying for masters to go toward their master's degree, as well as other certificates and certifications. And then certainly we have CEU scholarships as well. And just really so proud of what we've done with the scholarship program, and look forward to leveraging it and maximizing and optimizing the opportunity for scholarships this year in 2025 as well. We do have gatherings throughout the year, and these are different breakout sessions, workshops, panel discussions at industry events. The next industry event I think coming up is at Surfaces, and that happens in Las Vegas later this month. And Mohawk has very generously hosted last year and will be hosting this gathering this year as well. We're very excited about the focus for this year's gathering at Surfaces. It's necklaces and net zero, and there will be a DIY necklace bar. So that can be a lot of fun and a way to apply some creativity and networking with others. And then we are hosting a sustainability panel discussion, and you can see the participants there that will be moderated by Amy Rushember from Floorcovering Weekly, Candy Hampton from Shaw, Sinclair Myers from Myers Carpet, Noah there from AHF, Renee from Universal Fibers, and Melissa from Mohawk. And so we're just so excited about this sustainability panel discussion that will be there. So necklaces and net zero. Hope you are all able to attend. And then again, you're here for our Power Hour. We host these Power Hours monthly. They are generally at noon Eastern time, and wide range of topics. Both some are floor covering related and others are just general personal and professional development related. You can also on the website access any of the archived Power Hours. So if there are topics that you are interested in but you're not able to join on a specific month, they are housed on the website for Wi-Fi after. And you see a screenshot here of the Wi-Fi website. You can go there to learn more about gatherings, the mentoring, Power Hour, and all the content available from Wi-Fi. So let's get to why we're here. We are so excited today to have Michelle Carpenter O'Guin and Brent O'Guin. Brent is a technology strategist, and he's really going to talk us through practical uses for AI. It's such a big topic, and it sometimes feels almost too big to get our heads around. But Brent's going to simplify that and take us through practical uses of AI. So Michelle and Brent, I would like to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Brenda. Take over to share. All right. Brenda, thank you. Everyone else, thanks for being here. I love having these conversations, and I'm so grateful to see so many people missing their lunch to come spend some time with us, and we're going to do our best to make it worth it. So quick introductions. I know Brenda did a small introduction, but so my name's Brent O'Guin. So I'm in my day job, I'm a technology strategist, specifically around emerging technologies like AI with Georgia Tech. I also sit on the state of Georgia's AI Advisory Council. And then I'm co-founded Modern Context with Michelle, really looking at these practical uses of AI. Where this really came from is when I started looking at AI, particularly at the enterprise level, like Brenda said, it's a complex topic. And I was getting a little frustrated with looking at that from that angle only because I was getting so much value for myself and then helping other people start to use AI in these practical ways. But we were really struggling how to do it at an enterprise scale, right there, because there's so much money, there's so many things that had to be put in place, but there's just so much we can do right now. And that's going to be, really a big focus for today is looking at those things that we can really take ourselves and we can take for our teams and really put to work in a more of a supportive way of what we're already doing, rather than saying, hey, we have to totally disrupt and go invest in all this technology, because there is a lot of low-hanging fruit around AI. And it's something that I get very excited about, looking at what other people are doing. Michelle was kind of my first client in doing this, and then it kind of organically grew from there. because I just liked having these conversations. I liked brainstorming with people on solutions, and I really like using AI to find ways to help people use AI. And it's just something that I really enjoy.
And hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Carpenter O'Guin. So you'll see we share a name, and when Brent says that we were, or that I was his first client, it's because I literally didn't have anywhere else in the house to hide because he was so excited about sharing all that he was learning. And he reluctantly, to my demise, brought me along in that journey. And as I was establishing my consulting practice after 10 years being in the commercial interior industry, by way of Herman Miller and Shaw Industries, he really helped me move through this process and this conversation, which we've now condensed to about 45 minutes of really going from initial understanding to first uses of AI. So we hope that as we go through this conversation, you can start to see yourself in here as well and learn from some of our firsthand experience in terms of what worked for us and what maybe didn't work for us, because there was a lot of those components as well. So as we go through this conversation, you can obviously hear the passion in Brent's voice. He will be your primary facilitator verbally. I will be engaging in the chat, and I really encourage you all, like as you hear some of the nuggets of information that Brent is sharing, if you have reactions, questions, or best practices with how you're using AI, please share those in the chat. I'll be sending through a couple of intellectual prompts, which are really just triggers for getting you all to think about what he's saying in a deeper context. Also recognizing that some people need a little bit of different input, verbal and written. So you'll be able to follow along in the chat as well. And as we go through the conversation, there will be a survey at the end of this conversation that Wi-Fi will be sending out. Strongly welcome and encourage your feedback with any key takeaways or any topics that pop into your mind of other outcomes that we could potentially explore in future conversations. As you heard Brent say, we are really, really passionate about exploring how AI can actually help us move through our journey in work and in life. And we really want to explore more topics around that. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Brent.
All right, let's jump in. At the end of the day, we've got several objectives here, but if I had to summarize this, y'all are spending 45 minutes here today, and if y'all can walk away from this and say, I think I have a way later this afternoon to save 45 minutes because of something that we talked about, that would be a perfect scenario for me. Because I really want to look at these ways, to really encourage that experimentation and do it in a way that, you see integrating and bringing into what you're already doing later today. A lot of times people, they'll say, I'm trying to think of ways to use AI. And I say, let's not think of it that way. What are you already going to do later today? Let's see if we can use AI to make that a little bit easier. And we're going to show, some examples and give some take home, a take home that comes with this to give you some, some guidance on how you can actually try to identify some of those areas for yourself. So when we talk about supporting human expertise with AI, what we really mean there is, it's kind of best to illustrate through an example, right? So here we are, and then we know where we want to go. In this case, we want to get to the beach. And we hope getting to the beach is going to be real straightforward, but the reality is, getting to our objective is never that straightforward, and there's all kinds of problems that come up along the way. But just like trying to get to the beach, when we're trying to get to our objectives, we have a lot of things that we can use, a lot of things we do use to help us get there, right? We have a compass to help us orient, to where we're at, which direction we're headed. We have the ability to clarify where we want to go, right? We can say we want to go to the beach, but if I don't specify which beach I'm trying to get to, I very likely won't get to a beach. There's people who can help us along the way. We've got maps, so people that have gone before us and to give us an idea of the best way to get there. And then we've got tools that help us along the way. I mean, the best tool to get to the beach, maybe besides GPS is your actual car. I don't know, a bike would be okay, but it might take a lot longer. But those tools help us get there a lot faster and a lot safer. So thinking about that in terms of AI, right? What does that look like when I bring AI in to support me in those tools, right? So whatever objective we're going after, right? Whether it's a personal or a professional goal, or maybe it's an organizational goal, we can use that compass, right? Except for in this case, AI can help us understand, at the personal level, what am I good at? Where am I at? What do I have at my disposal? What are the strengths of my team or the weaknesses of my team? And AI can really help us take that information and say, hey, I want to approach this problem using my strengths, or I need to watch out for these weaknesses. And AI can help us understand how those things we know about ourselves and our team apply to where we're trying to go. On top of that, we can also use AI to help clarify where we want to go. This is very helpful for me. And a lot of times how this manifests for me is I might have an idea, a very vague idea of something I want to do or something I want to build. And I can actually work with AI to help me clarify what that is. And sometimes, one of my favorite is, hey, ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using, I've got an idea about a new service I want to offer. Here's a brain dump of my ideas. Ask me some questions about this and then clarify it for me. And that will take me from, some rambling going on in my head to something cohesive. And that's a huge deal. Next, we've got these maps, right? There are plenty of places out there. I find generally every time I have an idea, there's someone on the internet somewhere who's already written a book about how to get there and has already published case studies. AI can help us find those case studies, but Google can help us find case studies. That's not always the best thing. Here's where AI really helps, is it can say, hey, you help me find this case study or this approach, but maybe it's not exactly in my industry. Maybe it doesn't exactly fit. You can have AI help to adapt that best practice to your specific situation so that you're getting a tailored best practice that you can walk through. We have those tools, right? Maybe these are pieces of technology that your team already owns, or maybe this is something you use personally. They could be technology, or it could be an approach, right? You might use a specific personal project management, task management approach that you really like. And AI can do a couple things, right? It can help us find new approaches and new tools, or a lot of times what we get out of our tools or our current piece of the technology is a function of how good the input is. Maybe AI can help us be a little bit more clear about the input. Maybe it can help us get more out of our CRM or some other tool. And maybe it can help us understand the output of the tool in a more effective way. And then finally, we have those people that are here to help us, right? These are our advisors. This is our lawyer. This is our team. This is our spouse or friends. It's anyone who's in your world. And, in particular, for me, I know that sometimes this can be, I speak a lot sometimes in the technical language. And I can say, help me rewrite this in a way that a non-technical person can understand. Or if you've ever gotten something back from your doctor or from your accountant and they throw a lot of accounting terms that you're not familiar with, you can ask ChatGPT to translate. So not only can it help you identify, I need an advisor in this area, help me find that advisor. You can actually then clarify, these are the kind of things I want from that advisor, and help me translate back and forth. So you're having a much more effective conversation with those mentees. So that's what I mean by bringing in AI as a support of things. Everything here, most of these ideas, right, of knowing yourself and following guidance from people that have been there before, these are thousands of years old in terms of knowing that these things work. And a lot of us already have a lot of these things in place. And through this supportive approach, we're not saying redo any of that. We're saying start with finding those ways that AI can come in and support you in those arenas. And that's how you're going to get the biggest initial return for yourself. And then you can also bring these in at the team and at the organizational level in that way. Now, that doesn't mean there are not these huge, expensive, specialized AI opportunities that are out there. They're definitely there. They're definitely worth investing in. But I like to present this approach because this is something we can do. Let's say it's 12 o'clock right now Eastern time. This is something we can put in practice by 2 o'clock this afternoon, right? Like, this doesn't take a long time. It'll take a long time to master, but it does not take a long time to start getting value out of it right away. There's a lot of AI technologies out there. You don't have to know all of them. There's a lot of these things happening in the background, but we really want to kind of focus in on generative AI. And this is really that tool that's sitting behind those things like ChatGPT. And I really like this study. It was between Harvard Business School and Boston Consulting Group. And they found that knowledge workers doing typical knowledge worker tasks, right? So think setting emails, project plans, proposals, right? The kind of stuff that we have to do, the kind of stuff that a lot of people have to do on our team all the time. They're doing them 25% more quickly. And what I love out of this, when I first read this, I had to read the whole study. It's like 40 pages long. If you like that sort of thing, it'll be linked in here. But 40% higher quality. Because I'm not interested in producing fast, garbage at a fast rate. That's a not interesting thing. My integrity is very important to me. I value producing high quality work. And when you think about, even our biggest objectives, right? Like our biggest organizational goals, when it all breaks down, it's a bunch of emails, meetings, phone calls, decisions, making plans, right? It is all of these smaller things tied together. And if we can find as many of those places, just with like those supportive tools that we can bring AI in, we can start gaining advantage inside of what we're already doing today. One important way to think about this, though, is the approach we're bringing here, and really kind of when we're using these tools, it's human in the loop, right? We're still the expert. We're not passing off the decision-making to AI. We're still driving. This is how we avoid a lot of the problems with AI, especially at the beginning. So think of it like this way, right? You're in a self-driving car. If I'm in the loop, I'm driving the car, my hands are on the wheel, I'm taking inputs from the car and maybe making turns, but I'm still ultimately in control. Human on the loop would be, hey, I'm still in the front seat, but my hands are in my lap, I'm watching what the car is doing, I'm ready to intervene at any time. And then out of the loop, right, you're in the backseat of the Cybertruck taking a nap, and you're really relying on it. There's nothing wrong with any of these approaches. They just need to be thoroughly tested. But what we're talking about today is this in the loop, right? You're still bringing in your expertise and then supporting it with AI. We're not giving things up to AI. There's a lot of AI tools out there today. We're really focusing on these conversational generative AI chatbots, right? So this is ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity. There's a lot of these tools out there. What we're going to show today is going to be in ChatGPT. If you use something else, don't worry. If you've never logged into any of these, also, give it a shot. There's going to be some stuff in the take home for you to try. But we're going to work there because these tools are like a Swiss Army knife, right? They can do a lot of things. There are specialized tools out there. There's a whole lot of specialized tools out there. And when you go to operationalize within your organization, you may find a need for specialized tools. But I will tell you, I saw the titles on a lot of the people on this call. My guess is you're getting hit by a lot of vendors of your current technology and other technology, all thinking you need a specialized tool. And I'll tell you, I analyze a lot of these in my role at Georgia Tech. We can't buy them all. We don't have unlimited resources to invest in tooling. You can start with ChatGPT and make a lot of progress, and you can start to, even if it's in an ad hoc way, understand where AI can make a really big impact for you and your organization, then consider buying a specialized tool in that area. But I can come back to that, and if you're curious in this, please reach out. This is something I end up talking about a lot. So let's think about this in a little bit more detail. Before we jump in, though, to actually taking a look inside of ChatGPT, I want to just point out a few things. Number one, this is a big one, and this is also a big concern for a lot of people. Free tools. I'm going to go ahead and say, it says Gen AI out there. I'm going to say free tools on the internet are not private. Just assume anything you put into something like a free version of ChatGPT or even a personal version of ChatGPT that you're paying for, you really need to be careful on what we're sending into that tool, because you need to think about it like, I just put this on the front page of my company's website, or I just put it on my Facebook page. It's out there, right? That information can be used by that company to do, training of the model, or it can be used for other reasons, right? They could be profiling and selling things about you. And data privacy is a whole different topic. But I do want to point out, there are ways around this. We can, anonymize what we're doing, take out sensitive information, replace company names with other things when we're using free tools. But there are versions of ChatGPT and things like Microsoft Copilot that do come with enterprise data protection. And there's a good chance some of y'all have access to this through your company's Microsoft licensing, things like that, where you can actually upload things and it's just as safe and secure as putting it in your email. So if you put it in your email, you can put it in these tools. Now, that really reduces that risk of sharing considerably, especially, and with my role at Georgia Tech, I work with a lot of sensitive, research data, government data, FERPA, HIPAA. We've got some of the most sensitive data types you can imagine, and we're now able to still use these tools. So that does not, and a lot of you hear, oh, privacy is a concern. And some companies say, no, we don't even want to use AI. Yes, privacy is a concern, but there are ways to work around this. And there are plenty of arenas where you don't even use sensitive data. So I want to say that, yes, this is a risk. It is something to worry about. There are ways around it. Number two, it will produce factually wrong information. It's getting better, much better. But when we're asking for specifics, like, give me a statistic, I'm going to want to fact check that statistic before I use it. It is biased. It is trained on human created data. Humans are biased. It is getting picked up. Again, they're working on this, but it is still not great. We need to be careful that those biases aren't showing up when we're using the outputs. And that's why human in the loop is so important, right? This is, if you make that out of the loop system and you've got some biasy, that's how you end up in the news, right? We have to be careful there that we're not, institutionalizing a bias in some automated process. And then finally, it's not a substitute for your professional advice, right? It doesn't mean you put in your symptoms and you say, I don't need to go to the doctor anymore. I've got this figured out. ChatGPT told me what's going on. You still need your doctor. You still need your lawyer. You still need your accountant. You still need people still need you as an expert in what you do, right? But what this can do is, like we talked about earlier, it can translate. I know, for example, my father was having some health issues, and I don't know if you had anyone in the hospital recently, like all the medical notes are online now, and you could take their name out, right? So we don't want to leak HIPAA data about our family. And then take that note and say, okay, explain this to me like I'm not a neurosurgeon, and then help me come up with some questions to ask back that I'm worried about. And that significantly improves the communication because you only have a couple minutes to talk to that doctor. So you need to make sure you're speaking the right language. All right, so let's take a look here. Here's an idea of a way that I really like, and this is going to be in the take home, that I like to kind of frame up a conversation with ChatGPT. And I'm going to switch over, but this is a prompt that you can take, and there's a couple things happening here. I'm just going to go ahead and share my other screen so we can look inside of ChatGPT. So make sure we got the right, here we go. All right, so here's an idea that we can look at preparing here. So what essentially what I'm doing here, and this is ChatGPT if you haven't seen it, is I'm setting a context of who am I, where do I work? And then I'm setting a little bit more information on here's what I do. And then this is something I'm working on. So in this instance, I am a vice president of customer service, and I'm looking at a way to drive down the resolution times by 10 to 15%. Now, think about this in your terms. This could be at the vice president level trying to do something large, or this could be at administrative assistant who's saying, I'm trying to get the book club plan for my, the team's professional development book club. So you can really put in anything you want here, or you can put in more details. But I'm using this as an example because I'm hoping customer service is something that resonates with everyone. So when I put that into ChatGPT, I didn't even ask ChatGPT anything. I'm just kind of brain dumping in to set the stage. And they can come back around and say, well, you know what? Here's some ideas to focus on when you're doing that vision. And some of y'all are probably sitting there going, and I should have said, we're not going to try to read everything in here. This is more about framing it up. You can try this on your own. You might look at this first piece and go, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. I know those are the key things to look at. But really, I like to think about this almost like, a menu of things, right? We need to dive in a little bit more. Say you're not really familiar with data-driven decision-making in this context, right? So I can say, tell me more about the data-driven decision-making. I'm just going to give you some ideas here, kind of an overview of what that might mean in your space. And you can read through this, and maybe this, you can keep going. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about this. How would this apply to that? And you can kind of do this thought partnership here to kind of think through ideas. But we don't want to just stay in that ideation phase. We need to turn this into something. So maybe really what I wanted to do is I want to host a half-day visioning session with my senior leaders. And this is one of my favorite things about interacting with an AI model. The second question here. Ask me a few questions about my desired outcome for the session to help clarify my intent. And then after I respond, I want you to create a proposal. So ChatGPT then, instead of me thinking about wanting to like come out of my own mind to explain everything I want to do, it's going to ask me some questions, right? Some questions that are going to help really kind of set a greater context on the event. And I could sit down. This is something I do a lot, right? I could have done this while I'm waiting at the doctor's office or something, and just on my phone type in all of my thoughts as those questions come up, and just dump in all of this. Right, here's my thoughts about those questions. You don't even have to answer all the questions. You can drop in whatever you think, and now I've got a proposal for how I might want to run that. Now, maybe some of y'all would be, in a position where your organization is where if you want to run a half-day retreat, you're the one who sets it up. But, maybe you're a senior executive for a huge firm and you've got just, consultants at your disposal. Then I could go straight from that to say, actually, I want to delegate this to my consultant team. Write me an email clarifying what I want to accomplish, and then ask the consulting team to take over, present the concept in my next leadership meeting, and get feedback from me. So now I've got an email to send to my consultant team, delegating the task and letting them take it from there. So, I like to use this as an illustration of how I went from ideating on something I wanted to do, decrease ticket resolution time, to an action, to getting it delegated and getting it off my plate and setting it on someone else to let them take it over and bring back to me. But in a few minutes here, I'm giving them way more direction than I could have had I just sat down and started writing an email in a much more cohesive way, right? And that's the kind of that power to amplify our expertise and start trying to use some of those tools at our disposal very quickly with AI. So let's come back to the other screen. So this prompt will be in the take home. Definitely give it a shot and try different things. It's really great at starting to uncover some opportunities. A couple things as you're getting information in and out of there. You might have heard the term prompt engineering. I really don't like that. This is a conversation, right? If you don't like what ChatGPT is responding, if it's too long, tell it you want it shorter. Whatever's in your mind that you don't like or you do like about the response, just tell it. Just like you would talk to, a peer or maybe an employee and say, hey, that's pretty good, but I would really like it in a different format. Tell ChatGPT and it will work on it, right? You don't have to get a perfect prompt. You can iterate it through this kind of conversational approach. And if you're unsure, you can always even ask ChatGPT how to help. So there's a lot of ways to kind of save time along these same lines, right? All of these things we did, here's a lot of those, just some ideas to bring that in to save you time as an executive, and also to think about, hey, what if my entire team was doing this all the time at their level? Right? What if we were just doing the same thing, but having AI help guide us through it, getting that 25% faster, 40% higher quality? So let's take another look at another example. In this example, let's take a look at the RFP proposal process, right? Because I like this because, I think as we all know, if we take and, we select a better proposal, when we're collecting them, we're going to have a better outcome. And I think if we're all, I think a lot of people on this call are used to creating proposals and responding to RFPs. And I think we know if we can do that better, this change, this can move the bottom line for us. This is a big deal if we can even make a minor improvement in this arena. But let's take a look at what it would look like when we're actually taking proposals in first. So let me pull this back up.
And while Brent's pulling that up, as he's walking through this RFP example, which I think we all know from firsthand experience, or maybe even a little bit of trauma, that the RFP process is very complex, very cumbersome, and very important. So one, we hope that you can see the benefit of the story that Brent is sharing. for your business. And also, there's going to be a lot of transferable skills and pieces that you could extract into much simpler starting points. So keep that in mind as he's going through this example as well.
Thank you for pointing that out. I just and I'll do my best to kind of highlight what those skills are as we're going to kind of point that out. So let's say I just got three proposals back for doing some commercial interior work, and I've got my 3 proposals, and that's what these pink things are at the top here. I just uploaded 3 Word documents. Now these are, I do this with real proposals, but I don't want to show other people's proposals. So these are 3 generic proposals essentially, but they are realistic. And I can just say, I just want you to compare these 3 proposals. So ChatGPT will very quickly say, here's what we got from those proposals, and this is without any instruction from me, giving me some comparison points that I can very rapidly kind of look at a summary of what was in those 3 proposals, right? And that hallucination piece that we talked about earlier, this is what's called grounding it in something realistic, right? The hallucinations generally come from the fact that if we don't tell ChatGPT to look at something specific, like something we uploaded, it's trying to pick information, off Reddit, right? Like there was trained on Reddit. We don't really want that seeping into our conversation. I'm saying I just want to look at these proposals, significantly less chance of hallucinations here. We were looking at this with an insurance company, and we're talking, this was construction insurance policies that were 150 pages long, and we did not find any errors when we were doing and comparing contracts for that construction insurance policies. So this works very well here, much lower chance. Now, that being said, doesn't mean I'm not going to read the proposals. I'm still going to read them, right? So next I can say, actually, I want you to evaluate those proposals against the RFP. And then I just dropped some details from the RFP in here. And now I'm going to get back from ChatGPT, really looking at everything that we wanted to address and then actually comparing what we got from the 3 different vendors on specifically the points from the RFP that we listed as important. And then it'll come back and say, here's a recommendation based on that. Now, again, if I just said, all right, that's great, pick that one, I'm out of the loop. I have not really weighed in, right? I still want to make my own decision. So I can say, and what if, let's make this, and I'm an engineer and I love these like decision-making frameworks. Let's create a scoring matrix that I can then edit and see how, first of all, how are you making your decision, AI? And I would maybe want to edit this with my team, or maybe if I've got a committee that looks over proposals, we can then, edit this scoring matrix and make sure that we agree with what the best choice would be. And this is something, really like to do. And again, the RFP process is long. I'm kind of jumping through here just to show a few things, but I love asking things like this. Highlight any risks, ambiguities, missing details, and then go ahead and write me an email back to the vendor. Or, I like to ask like, hey, what are some points that we can negotiate on based on this? And right off the bat, here's some questions that I might want to consider. Now, again, I'm not just letting those go. I'm using this as a supportive tool to say, these are some points I might want to look at, along with my expertise of looking at the tool. And then finally, let's say I am getting close to the end, I can say draft a recommendation memo to send off to the team on maybe I got to flow this up to another higher level for approval. And then it's going to come back and compare everything about that conversation we're just having into a decision document. And then I can send that off for approval. So that's like a very fast way to work through selecting those, selecting a proposal that makes sense. And, all we were doing here, if you think about these core skills, right? We analyzed a document we uploaded. We asked questions, right? We had to look at that for what we might be missing, right? And that could be the same for many different things. And then we had to kind of summarize it all and put it into a form that we can make a decision from at the end. Now, this applies in a lot of places, right? Not just the RFP process, like Michelle was saying, but let's switch to the other side. Maybe we had received that RFP and we wanted to prepare a proposal. And in this case, I'm saying, here's the RFP I got, and here is a proposal that's similar that I created. but I want to use it as a starting point. And this, I love this because especially when I'm preparing like statements of work and proposals, say I had a similar client, but I want to start with it and then just modify it to fit this client. So, the first thing it's going to do is going to break down and say, it's actually going to look at your existing proposal, look for opportunities, tell you some points where you've got to revise it. And then, now I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. I'm actually going to ask ChatGPT to help me do this. I can say, let's work through step one. Let's work through it step by step, starting with step one. So it's actually going to then tell me what we would need to do to go through this. And then from there, I can say, okay, based on that, help me draft, a confirming, an email to confirm any missing details we might need from the RFP to clarify it even further. And finally, then I can say, okay, I'm ready for that. Let's go on to step two, assessing the proposal. And I can actually then go through this step by step with ChatGPT as we're going, working through creating that other proposal. So now I'm actually really co-creating within ChatGPT, and that can really speed up. But again, I'm still driving. I still know what I'm doing. I'm still making the decisions. So hopefully that'll give you some idea of what we can do to create this sort of thing. And then you can keep going, right? How can I write better specifications? You can just keep going and going. I'm going to stop us here, but hopefully you can see where this can apply to a lot of things we already do, right? The hiring process is right for this. Simpler processes are right for this. It was even sometimes as simple as, looking at like outbound communications and making sure that, hey, we're running those through ChatGPT to make sure that we're meeting what we're expecting out of those, checking for different, tone and different things that we might want to do that. So it can be really applied in a lot of those, a lot of those areas. So let's go back to the presentation. So, when we look at this more at like an organizational setting, I like to think of, again, kind of going back to that concept of the knowledge worker. And this kind of fits inside of this, what I would call the knowledge worker cycle, right? We have some sort of, we capture some sort of stimuli. Maybe it's an idea we have, maybe it's an email from a peer, maybe it's a text message from, your leadership team, or, maybe it's just someone passing you in the hallway, or you read an article. Once you get that stimuli, right, something triggers you to act. We generally have to analyze and think about, like, what does this mean to me? What am I going to do about this? Very few of us work alone, so we generally have to collaborate with some other people. Then we typically go about building a plan of how we're going to try to act and execute on this thing. We actually go and do it. Then we review how it went, and kind of this whole thing kind of typically creates more work for us, right? And this thing kind of runs in circles. This could be as simple as someone asking me where you want to go to lunch today, or it could be as complex as, hey, I want to actually go after a brand new line of business, and we need to think through what is that going to take for us to do. So, but at the core, we're doing these things all the time. We're running these loops all the time. And when we think about AI from the practical application perspective, we can put AI in as a supportive tool right in the middle of that. And this really doesn't take an immense amount of upskilling to get the core transferable skills here, but it is very challenging to find all the places where you can bring AI in. But the more you find, and this is a loop, right? The more you find those places, the faster you can run through this loop, and the greater the quality of the output that you can produce for yourself and also for the people on your team. So, here's another example, kind of like the RFP, but rolled up, something that we all love. And it's always super easy, and all of our tools are great and our processes are always perfect, I'm sure, is hiring people. And this really highlights a few things, right? One, there is a compounding effect here, right? Let's think about the job requirement. If I use AI to write a better job requirement, let's say I have an existing job requirement and I want to modify it to fit a new role. AI is very good at doing that. If I have a better job requirement, my posting is probably going to be a little bit better. And if I use AI to think about where and how I might want to post, I'm going to get better applications. And if I'm using those applications, now here, warning note, right? I'm not just going to load my applications in and say, who's the best fit? Because that's out of the loop, right? And that's really going to have a lot of biases baked into it. But let's say I wanted to analyze some skills on a resume and say, hey, maybe they did this in government. How is this going to apply to my small business? Maybe help me think through some questions I might want to ask in the interview to clarify if their skill set is going to transfer. So now I'm asking them specialized questions, right? I may take my standard list of questions and say, how should I, tailor these to this person to really get to the things I'm worried about? Then maybe we can use that in the assessment. And also, it's actually quite usable in the negotiation strategy of looking, you can take kind of the emotion side out of negotiation and look at using this in a negotiation approach. So, each one of these feeds the next. So if we can take a 40% better outcome at each point, we're going to be much greater than 40% by the end. And this rolls up really, across to the whole organization, because our organization, right, we're made up of people, we've got technology, we've got processes. Changing our people structure, changing our technology, or think about changing an ERP system or a CRM system. This could be years and many tens of millions, depending on the size of your organization, to even shift one of those tools. And then processes, right? Sometimes there's an immense amount of stakeholders involved in changing a process. It creates a lot of disruption to change processes. But when we're equipping the knowledge worker with this supportive version of AI, they can interact with those existing processes, those existing technologies, those existing other people in a way that, is really enhanced through the use of AI in this way. Now, that doesn't mean over in that technology box that we're not eventually going to get some super powered AI infused CRM that's going to revolutionize the way that we do relationship building. Absolutely. It's going to happen. It's not here today. And I don't know whether that'll be a top priority for your technology spend in the next couple of years. But your interaction with your CRM today can be improved if, something that I use after a conversation, I literally will speak into my phone after a conversation of what I talked about with that person, run it through ChatGPT and just load it in the CRM. And the quality and the depth of the notes about interactions is so much better than if I had sat there and tried to type that up. Like, that's a simple thing that makes a big deal for me. So, that's how this individual upskilling and empowerment starts to scale up at the organizational level, right? And it's really amazing when you see how groups of people who are really good at this start interacting differently. And it's kind of an organic bottoms up change while you're looking on your top down technology approach. Still, you want to come from both directions, but this is a much faster and I believe a higher ROI, especially in the short run, to start capturing some of this AI capability. So I'm gonna pass the rest over here to Michelle to wrap us up, and I think we should have plenty of time for any additional questions that come up here at the end.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, if anyone has a question, we do have one that just came in from Judith. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to plop those into the chat right now. Brent, Judith is asking about when and why would you purchase a package with one of the AI providers versus using the free versions?
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now, so then we'll come back to that. So the biggest reason that I see there's a few reasons, right? First reason, and I'd like to clarify this, and you can put this in the chat. When you say a package, are you referring to like an enterprise grade tool for your entire company, or are you referring to like the $20 a month you might want to pay to get it yourself? And I'm going to answer it from both angles. So, when I look at it from the individual, so from the individual perspective, right? When you start using ChatGPT, a tool like ChatGPT, you get like 10 back and forths with their most advanced model, and then it'll shut you off. When you just start off, that might be plenty. I would blow through that before I get started in the morning with how integrated in AI has become to my daily workflow. So one of the first things is just the number of back and forth that you can have. And when you pay, you typically get earlier access to more advanced models. Like, for example, ChatGPT now has reasoning models, which work a little bit different than like the other large language models because they're actually thinking through, they're better at problem solving. Those aren't available for free yet. But I find there's certain use cases that are extremely powerful that are in there that for now. So that's really kind of the main reason why. And you gain access to some other stuff like different levels of integrations. You can build customized GPTs, and we didn't even get into all of that. But there's additional things you can do. The other reason why, and this generally applies more at the enterprise and team level. So these are the bigger packages, and it's data security, right? At that level, you're getting contractual and technology architectural protection to your data. So that's when typically buying these at the enterprise level makes the most sense because you may have data that you do not, there may be areas of data that you just don't want to put at risk, right? Or you may have, different regulations because you're doing business in Europe and you've got GDPR to worry about, right? So you may need something out there that can handle that for you. So you may have to look at buying some enterprise grade solution for you to get this same capability. But that said, right, like a lot of what we looked at today, a lot of what we look at sometimes, it is public information or it's just my thoughts. So I'm not really worried about that as much, right? And that's really more situational.
Yeah. I think that's a key component of, like, you all could use the free version probably today and for quite a few months into the future even. I know, like, when Brent and I were getting started, and even with some of the clients that we're working with now, the free versions are sufficient until you truly need something more. So if you're worried about just getting started, you can always just start with that. And then when you start bumping into some of those barriers, then have that investment conversation with the people who truly need it. Brent, there's one more question, which I think you're looking at the chat right now.
Yeah, I'm pulling it. I just pulled it up. So the question is, I've recently heard that Copilot add-on with Teams provides great values to other in the industry. Is this something that can be added personally on an enterprise software system like Teams? So yes, that capability is primarily through the Microsoft licensing for, and Microsoft's infinite wisdom named everything Copilot, but there is a Copilot for web that comes with your Microsoft enterprise license. That usually, unless your company turned it off, you all got access to this. You can just go to copilot.microsoft.com if you're a Microsoft shop, and you can have access to this. What you're talking about is this integration with Teams is part of the Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. And then it integrates in with a lot of the other Microsoft apps. Now, that is like another $20 per month per user. Now, considering Microsoft itself is less than that, this is a significant cost at the enterprise level. I know, even at Georgia Tech, it was going to be, like $7 or $8 million a year for us to add this in. So this is no trivial thing to add this on at scale. But I will say, there's a pilot group going, and I'm working with some other companies on like, let's do a a cost benefit analysis on, is this worth it? The Teams add-on alone and the ability to take notes in a meeting and then get those notes out. And then let's say I'd missed a meeting, I can actually interact just like we were doing with ChatGPT. But what you're just saying is I can actually ask questions about a meeting that occurred that I wasn't there. And it will say, this is what they discussed. This is the decision they had. And here's exactly where you want to look at in the transcript to find what I'm talking about. Like, that is very powerful if everyone in your organization is on Teams, but everyone has to have that Teams license. And I'm not sure if your question is, can you add it yourself? The answer is no. You have to have your central IT will have to add it for you. And this is, a lot of teams want it, but it's got to be done centrally. And then we've got a whole question of like, who's going to pay for it, right? It becomes a complicated mess. There are other solutions to do very similar things. If you really like that meeting transcript piece, like Read AI, Otter AI, there's a couple things that kind of simulate the same. It's not quite as integrated, but one word of caution: when you're using the official Teams add-in, that's protected. When you invite Otter, be careful what you're saying, because this is an issue. Like, let's say you're speaking about sensitive data in that meeting and someone brought Otter in and they're using a free Otter, personal Otter AI account. They just leaked that data to Otter's company, right? Because unless you have an enterprise agreement with Otter, it would be the same as putting it in the free version of ChatGPT. So you need to be careful, particularly when you're having sensitive meetings on if you're inviting those third-party tools in. Again, remember, if it's free, it's not private. So we have to be kind of careful there. But yes, it's extremely powerful.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for your questions. I think Brenda's going to wrap us up. I just wanted to say a couple of quick remarks. As you can tell, like, Brent is extremely passionate about this work. He loves having conversations. If anyone would love a follow-up conversation, please reach out to us. We're really active on LinkedIn, sharing what we're learning and what we're actually experiencing as we explore some of these outcomes and how AI is supporting us and some of the other clients that we're supporting. And we also host other events as well. So on our website, which I just sent through in the chat, we have another event coming up on Thursday, January 30th. That is focused on strengths and actually applying what you're best at to your work and to your life. So it's really building on a lot of the things that we talked about today of how do you get started, but then how do we actually target those use cases? So thank you. And Brenda, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle and Brent. I tell you, I'm trying to leverage AI more in my daily life and in my work life, and I have been for probably a year and a half now, a little bit, but I still feel like I'm such at the starting point, and I learned so many tips today that I am going to try at least one of them this afternoon. So thank you so
Awesome.
much for all of that. Just really, the opportunity is just infinite, it feels, of how we might use it in our work and our lives. So, and just how to practically do that, right? And how to simplify it. So just really appreciate all that you shared today. And we're just so grateful that you gave of your time to Wi-Fi and our participants. We're going to ask all of you to complete the survey. You can see the survey QR code on the screen. If you will, just take a moment, scan that, send it, complete the survey. It's really helpful to Wi-Fi as we continue to provide content. And then it will also, as Michelle and Brent referenced earlier, it's very helpful for them as they continue to refine content that they're delivering as well. So please just take a moment to do that. And let's see, I think we've got one more slide. If you want to become a Wi-Fi corporate or individual donor, here's your opportunity to do that. You can scan this code. There's also a place on the website if you get to the website without the code, but you can certainly scan this code and it will take you right there. And again, we're just so grateful for all of our donors. This is just a capture, a screen capture of many of the events that and content that's been provided, whether it's gatherings or power hours or other content and other opportunities that you have to engage in Wi-Fi. And we encourage you to take a look at all of these. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn, provide content also that would be rich for dialogue. And if you have a request for content to be delivered through Wi-Fi, through Power Hour or other methods, other mediums, we can certainly, we're looking for, we want to provide the content that's meaningful to you. So let us know what you'd like to see and hear next. And again, we're just so grateful for your time, for your participation. Brent and Michelle, just one more thank you to you. Have a great day.